Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal woman that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a while now. She is my sister in Christ. We attend the same church with one another. She is a wife. She is an author, but most importantly, she's a woman of God. She's taken time out of her very busy schedule this evening to hang out with us to share a little bit about her personal journey with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others, particularly as it comes to dealing with the moments of adversity that we face, the storms of life, trying to give you some insight as to proper ways to deal with that, even in the midst of the darkest moments and storms of our lives. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you some for the first time, some that may be a repeat because you've seen her on our marriage episodes that we had, our marriage series. But without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Miss Shana Westbrook-Faulkner. Shana, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
All right. So, like I said, the last time you had an opportunity to be on the show, it was a part of our marriage series. You were on with your husband, and we had a great time together. But this time, it gets to be about just you. And so you got some insights, some nuggets to drop on your own, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share. I know I'm going to be blessed. I know our listeners are going to be blessed. So, with that said, let's jump right in. But before we get into our segments, I do again want to give you an opportunity to kind of give a general introduction about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give everybody a taste of who is Shana Westbrook-Faulkner.
Well, hello once again to everyone, and my name is Shana Westbrook-Faulkner, as he stated. I am also a mother, as he stated, a first-time author, and I work in the medical field as a neurodiagnostic technician. For some, I'll just shorten it EEG technician. I have three beautiful children. They're all grown. I have two beautiful grandchildren. My mother is living, in-laws. My father's deceased. And I'm just a regular person, regular everyday person. Nothing major, just regular person, just taking it one day at a time and enjoying life to my fullest.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for giving us a little taste of who you are, but we can ready to find out a whole lot more. So, with that said, again, as we do here on the show, when we talk about our journeys, when we talk about our stories, I'm a firm believer that we have to always kind of go back to the beginning to see where it all starts. Where's the foundation of your journey, begins? Because I think that those beginning moments play a great role in determining what ultimately life's path has for us, and more importantly, the purpose that God has for us in our lives. So, with that said, Shana, if you would take us back to your childhood and reflect on that for a moment, if you would, kind of share with us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there was any specific challenges that come to mind that you'd like to share about growing up. Again, giving us that foundational basis of the beginnings of your story.
Growing up for me, first of all, I'm from Marianna, Arkansas, which is a very little small town. Um, and I was the oldest of three children. My mother, she had me at a very young age. So she was still a teenager when she had me. So we basically grew up with my mother, with my grandmother, and we call her Granny. And so I had the opportunity to have not only her, my granny, but also Big Mama, who's my great grandmother. And they were some very strong, God fearing women, very, very strong. So that's where I get my strength from as a woman. So being the oldest, there comes responsibilities. You have to do things that you probably don't want to do. You want to go outside and play, but you got to help babysit these kids, do your chores. So, I had my Aunt Renita and my cousin Carlos. We all around the same age. So we felt more like siblings than we did like cousins. And so I had the opportunity to have them. I had a host of uncles and aunties that I lived with. And growing up, it wasn't the worst because, as I look back at some people today, I didn't think that we were not poor. I mean, I thought we lived a very decent life. But as you look around and you see other people, you're like, well, I think we were kind of poor. But there were fun memories, and there were also not good memories. But my fun memories is like, we get up on a Saturday morning and we all go outside, which is something these kids don't do nowadays. Get our bikes going downtown, riding all through town until the lights come on, and just enjoying ourselves, going outside and having fun with the neighbors and doing stuff like that. And there were moments there it wasn't fun because, like I said, I could not have that childhood. I had to help out in the home and, babysitter, help my mother do things like that. Um, And there was moments, my mother, she did the best that she could and the best that she knew how. There were times when we did run into issues where, you may look up and there's a disconnection for lights, or things like that. But like I said, we always had my grandmother and my great grandmother to fall back on for that support, which I appreciated. Hold on just a moment. Let me close this door.
Hmm. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're listening to Shana Westbrook-Faulkner, our guest for this evening on the Blessings in the Streets podcast. Our show title is Finding Me to Love Me, and Shana is sharing a little bit about her beginning moments and coming up. So she's back with us. So go ahead and continue with your story.
Sorry, I had to close the door because my husband just. Whew. But as I stated, there were fun memories, and there were memories. As a child, I look back and I wish I had certain things that other kids had. And like I said, my mother did the best that she knew how, and I appreciate all that she did do. But there were moments where I wish that I did have or didn't have that the others have. I can recall the moments to where everyone didn't have a telephone. We would have a telephone every blue moon, not
Mm,
all the time. So there were not telephones, in my home that much. But I can look back now, and for some people, they may say, "Oh my God, that was a struggle." But I just enjoyed those little moments, like on Saturdays when my grandmother would fry catfish, and she would make that homemade ice cream.
mm.
That was the best thing, Lord. I mean, I could just taste it in my mouth now as we're talking about. So those were fond memories. So for me, I kind of just held on to the good memories and didn't focus too much on the bad things. Because as I said, I didn't see myself as someone that didn't have when I looked at other families, and it was a very small community, so everyone knew everyone. So to me, I didn't feel I didn't have. It wasn't like I said, so that you get older and you realize, oh my God, you really didn't have that. But based off the love that we all had, we got together as a family. My mother and her mother, my aunts, and everyone. It kind of, would make you forget about those moments. And there were also moments where, like I said, when you read the book, you will see where there would be issues where there would be bickering and arguing, and it'll turn to like a WWE moment. But that's life. What family don't have those moments?
Right, right. Mm, mm, mm. Well, again, first of all, I appreciate your transparency and sharing a little bit about your upbringing. And of course, what stands out to me as to what you've shared so far, again, just thinking back to the days when, as kids, you got outside more and that was, those fun times, whether it was with your cousins or siblings or, neighborhood kids or what have you, just doing a little bit of everything. We were, back in those days, we were a little bit more creative and how to have fun. And even if we didn't have a lot of resources to work with, we just made a way
Right.
to just enjoy one another. And it would be more of a battle to get us back inside the house than it
Right.
was that you think about today, where it's about getting the kids to go outside the house, because they're so attached to their various electronics and things of that nature. So even speaking about not having a phone, or of course, back in our day, we didn't even have internet,
Right.
back then and things like that. But that didn't bother us because
Right.
again, we had one another. It was a cohesive family unit, even if things were struggle wise in terms of finances or things like that. I think it's always something special anytime I hear people speak to that, and about how we didn't have a lot, but it didn't feel like we didn't have a lot.
Feel like it, right? It is.
And that's a testament to just being in a loving family that supports one another, that extended family, that community element is there, that allows you to not focus on those type of things, but you being able to just even have a memory about catfish on a Saturday and
Yeah.
homemade ice cream. I mean, those are like true, fond memories, special stuff that that's those are priceless things that you can tell many years, to your kids, your grandkids, and things of that nature. Just the small moments are big moments like that. When families really focus on the family and not everybody in their own respective corners in the house and just kind of independently doing their own thing. It's like we live together, but we live separately at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's always great to hear stories like yours. Again, it triggers memories of my own of those fun moments and times in life. So awesome, awesome. So Shana, with that said, again, you go through childhood, Obviously there's some good moments, there's some challenging times or whatever. We venture off into adulthood, and those experiences become more and more, available to us, the good, the bad. But every now and then, as I always say, you live long enough,
That's
there's
right.
going to be a moment in time where there's going to be some storms that cross our path, and some
Right.
storms will hit in a way that's different than just the everyday moments of adversity, if you will, to the point that we find ourselves from time to time and faced with situations that we're like, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to get out of this? Even if you're somebody who grew up, in the church and you're a believer, you may still find yourself worrying and stressing and wondering, how do I overcome this? Feeling like you're hopeless, that there's no way out, that there's no one to turn to.
Yes.
So with that said, if you would share with us a time in life where that's exactly how you felt. I'm dealing with this situation. I didn't know how I was going to come up out of it. We know that you're here today, so we can trust that God, made a way. But maybe at that time you didn't see that. You didn't know how it was going to happen. You didn't know if it was even possible, to break through whatever that challenging moment was for you. So if you would kind of walk us through whatever it is, the story that you're going to share with us, and share with us, of course, what ultimately was the turning point where you began to see that way out of that particular situation.
Well, I can give you several situations, but one in particular I can recall. It was when I was living in Minnesota, and there was some financial issues going on with the person that I was married to at the time. And as I stated in the previous discussion with my spouse, I've been married more than once. And with that particular spouse, he was one that kind of he didn't have the, I guess, shall I say, the get up and go that I wanted him to have. And at times I felt like, they say build a bear. I feel like I was trying to build a man. So I feel like there were moments where I kind of would play myself down to appease him, just to try to uplift him. But in doing so, I didn't realize it was hurting me more than it was helping me. So it was a moment to where, um, like I said, it was a financial issue going on. I was doing most of the work and trying to go to school at the same time. I then also had got accepted into the program that the field I currently work in now, which is the EG Tech. So I was just working and going to school, working and going to school, and it just got to the point to where I'm doing so much, but what are you doing? There's always excuses. There's always excuses. And I was like, okay, something has to give. So, we had got to the point to where we decided we're going to go our separate ways, and as stated in the discussion the other night with my husband about the joint account. So I was a little hesitant with doing that because with this spouse that I was married to at that time, he and I had a joint account. So when we decided to go our separate ways, I'm like, okay, give us a break or whatever. So I'm like, okay, so we had a joint account. He went to the bank and withdrew every penny except for $14. I did
Mm.
not know this until one of the managers at Wells Fargo called me. And he was like, something just doesn't seem right. I said, no, I don't know. So he took every penny. And I was like, oh my God, well, what am I going to do? So I was like, okay, so, and he also had one of my bills was in his name. So I was looking for the bill, which was a gas bill, and never came. Now this is Minnesota, so it's cold in Minnesota.
Right.
So I look up what happened. The gas is off. So now here I am with my children. Luckily, I think it was not as cold. So I was like, okay, Lord, what am I going to do? Because as I stated, I was in school. So I would sometimes use the money that was funded for me for school to help me get through because I was going to school as well and trying to work. So let me tell you how good God is. So he took every penny out of that account. And the tell at the bank, the manager, he was working with me. He knew that I had money coming in. So he was like, okay, so I looked up the gas bill was 600 and some dollars. I don't know the exact amount, but it was 600 and some dollars. And I was like, Lord, where am I going to get this money from? Joseph, let me tell you something. I looked into that checking account. There was double the amount of what the light bill, what the gas bill was. So I called the bank. I said, I don't know where this money came from. And I don't want to touch it. And he said, well, it's in your account. And you need it, if you need it, use it. That's how good God is because I was very stressed out. I was stressed out financially. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have any gas. I took that money and I paid that gas bill. So at that moment, when I felt like I had nowhere to go, I was losing faith. God was like, okay, you're gonna be all right. I got you. So it was moments like that that made me change my thought process on life. Period. Because I'm like, when you think nothing's going to happen, He's an on time God. He comes right in on time.
Mm.
So I took that $600 and some coin. I paid that gas bill, and I got my gas turned back on for my babies. And the thing that really, really also made me really feel good and uplifted me the most, even though my gas was off before my birthday, I came home from work one day, and it was the week before the gas got turned back on. And my children, my oldest daughter and her friends, all got together, and they made signs for me when they got me a cake and sang happy birthday to me. I was like, oh my gosh, didn't have gas and have we had lights and everything else. They went, they fried chicken and everything for me. So, then led up to the moment of the gas getting back on. So through that dark moment, I found joy and peace, and God just let everything fall. So sometimes when I find myself stressed out, or if someone finds themselves stressed out and thinking like, "Oh Lord, what I'm gonna do," just already know that He's already worked it out. You just have to have faith, stand still, and let Him do it, and not get so stressed about it. So from that moment on, I just use that as well as other issues to be like, you know what, I can't control what happens. It's not in my control. So God had control, and yeah, He made sure I had that $600 and some coins to get that gas turned back on for my babies. But yeah,
Mm.
that was the moment I just feel like, oh Lord, what am I gonna do? Because I didn't want to call anyone, and I just was like stressed. But then when I let go and let God, He made a way.
That is a phenomenal story. And I know some people will hear a story like this and they'll be like, "Wow, how lucky you must be to
Love
have
His
this money." But that's what you're just getting ready to say is what I'm getting ready to say is, when you are in a relationship with God, when you understand the power of God and who He is and what He represents and how much He loves you, luck suddenly does no longer becomes a part of your category, your vocabulary anymore.
right.
You begin to understand that this is something way higher level than luck is, because there's nothing lucky about God. There's nothing
Right.
lucky in what He does, what He represents. He is a provider. He is a waymaker. He is a problem solver. And here you were with a situation, and this is part of how He helps to strengthen our relationship with Him. Is He will allow moments like this to take place where you have nowhere to turn. There's no money. There's not a phone call to make. There's not a favor to call in. It's just you having to, like you said, let go and let God, depending upon Him, saying, "Lord, I got these babies in my house, and our gas is cut off, and I'm very familiar with Midwest and particularly Minnesota. I've been to Minnesota multiple times. Anybody don't know anything about Minnesota, it gets very, very like dangerously cold in
Yeah.
Minnesota. So for
Yes.
you not to have gas, especially if it's in the wintertime or anything like that, you're in a serious situation. This is not just a minor inconvenience. This is could be in some instances a matter of life and death. And so for money to make its way into your account, you don't know where it came from.
Mm.
You don't know how it happened, but it was not only was it there, but it was enough for you to take care of that bill and take care of a few other things. All you can do is give credit to God for something like that. And it's the epitome of what, when I think about my book and just the title of my show, we talk about blessings in the streets. That's the whole, that's what blessings in the streets is about. When when you're looking about what the meaning of that is when God moves in a situation, and provides in such a way in an unexpected manner from the least likely of sources, from the least likely of directions, but it happens, and it happens at the right moment in time, and you can't really explain it. All you can do is it happened like this, and you either got to believe it or you just don't.
Right.
But that's how it happened. That's how it went down. I'm not making this up. I'm not fabricating it. It happened exactly like that. That's a blessings in the street moment that you
Right.
had in that instance, and I'm sure you've had many more of those moments
Oh
along
yes.
the way. But that's just how that's what God does, and that's why we have to, even in the darkest moments, even when it just looks like it's completely hopeless, like there's no way that this is going to work out. There's no way that this is going to pan out. God will provide. He will make a
That's,
way. You
that's
just
right.
have to let go of that worry, that fear, and just trust that he's gonna deliver. He's gonna deliver. He's like that's why we say he's an on time God. So
Yes, He is.
that's an awesome story to share, and I hope our listeners will truly embrace that and take note. as to what is required. This is what it takes. When you're called by God, when you're in relationship to him with him, you're gonna have to. He's gonna allow some things to happen, but
Right.
you're gonna have to trust, and you're gonna have to withstand. But knowing that he's there with you the whole time. He never left you in that
Never,
moment. He
never.
never left you in that moment. He was always there. He was just seeing, okay, are you gonna trust me, or are you gonna try to wing this thing on your own?
Right.
Are you gonna sit there and sulk and worry and
Right.
stress out, or are you gonna let that thing go and allow my comfort, my peace be upon you, and make it way. Let me show you what I can do. Let me show
That's
you how I can be that way maker, that miracle worker. Let me
right.
show you what I can do. So great stuff. Great stuff. So Shayna, I'm curious to know, we all face again adversities and challenges in life. You obviously just shared one that was a little bit more of an extreme storm, but sometimes the storms are heavy and fierce. Sometimes they're just minor, just day to day annoyances that we deal with. But what I'm curious to know from you is when you find yourself facing adversity, again, whether it's something big or small, what is your process, your regiment, your routine that you like to follow that kind of helps you to deal with moments of adversity where you can kind of keep a level head, but at the same time be able to process through and come up with a solution to whatever it is that you find yourself up against? What works best for you?
Well, the first thing I have to do is I have to realize, especially if it's like a heated moment or something, I have to realize that every action does not deserve a reaction at that moment. So I've learned to not to react so quickly and just like think things through and just like okay, Lord, what am I going to do? But first and foremost, I have to like gather my thoughts. I do pray. So it was one moment where I felt like I was going on I can say a spiritual healing, a self healing moment for me. And I just felt like I was going through some things, and I just felt like every time I tried to do something, it never it never went through because I felt like I didn't really have God involved. So I decided to pull myself away from social media for a little while, and I just began to like focus on reading self healing books. I also found scriptures, so I would get up every morning, which I probably need to start back doing. I would get up every morning around 5 o'clock. I would go into a little closet. I would meditate, and then I would pray. I would start my day. I pray again, and I just try to get through it because it's like sometimes I could react and make my own decisions, and things don't go through. And I, like I said, I find myself sitting there like, oh my God, why, what is going on? But then it's like you got to just sit there and say, Lord, I'm gonna stand still. I'm gonna let you handle this for me, and not try to do it on my own. Because, like I said, there are many, many, many times where I'm just like, oh, God, I just, but I got through it because I prayed about it. I gave it to Jesus. And I also had the thought process that whatever bad happens, there's some good that comes from it.
Mm,
So I just feel like you're either going to be in a storm, entering a storm, or exiting a storm.
hmm.
But if you have a very strong foundation, if everything is destroyed, you can always rebuild. So you can rebuild yourself to get through whatever it is you're going through. So that's how I do it. I just feel like I'm a storm, and I'm going to get through this storm. But every storm, there's solid foundation, and there's always sunlight. You will always see the sun shine after a storm, and it will be peace, and everything will be standing still in silence. So that's how I have to look at it for me.
Love that. Love that. And the thing that stood out to me was right towards the end when you said about when you have a strong foundation, you can always rebuild.
Hmm.
I love that because again, what we're talking about here and dealing with these storms of life is if my foundation is rooted in a relationship with God, then there really is no such thing as true loss. I might lose, a job. I might lose a possession, or I might lose an opportunity. But if I got a relationship with God, if I lost that, it's a loss only in worldly terms because that means that loss is really just a setup for what God is about to rebuild,
Yes. Yes.
reestablish for me.
Yes.
So I love your approach because what you're emphasizing here is that we can't think of a storm as a negative event.
Right.
It may not feel good, but there's something to gain from that storm. There's something to benefit out of it, and it may not be evident to you right away.
Hmm.
But if you your words, you said if I'm still and I withstand, the pressure of that moment, I just withstand it. And I'm able to do that because of my foundation in God. Because it may be uncomfortable for me, but it's not going to take me out.
That's right.
And ultimately I withstand that storm. And as you said, when a storm ends, the sun comes out,
That's right.
and there's a light that shined on the situation. Things look brighter now.
Mm-hmm.
The outlook is better now because the storm has passed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so true. I mean, it's if you really think about it from a weather standpoint, but you apply it spiritually, that's exactly how that works. You go
Exactly.
through that storm, but when you come up out of it, if you can come out of it still standing upright,
That's right.
you have an opportunity to be stronger, better, and wiser than what you were before,
Right.
and have an opportunity to receive something that before you went through that storm, you weren't ready to get it. You had to go through that to get to the other side.
That's
And
right.
so that's basically what you're speaking to. And it's so important again for our listeners that are tuning in. Please understand that, yeah, if you want to get the blessings of God, if you want to, reach those goals, you want to get those victories, that there's some storms, there's some battles that you're going to have to go through because again, while God is on your side and he loves you and he wants nothing but the best for you, trust that there's some enemies, there's some oppositions that's out there, some seen, some unseen, that is trying to disrupt, distract, throw you off your game.
Right.
But you got to stay in that lane, you got to stay firm and withstand it, knowing that you're not in it by yourself, which means that you shouldn't be on a solo act trying to handle everything by yourself, but knowing, hey, God's got your back. And if you just trust him, you follow his lead, let
Right.
him be your guide, you'll get through it. And when you come out on the other side, you will be blessed as a result. That sunshine will be present for you on the opposite end of that storm.
That's
So
right. That's
I'm,
right.
I'm, I love how he broke that down. Like I said, I'm either entering it, I'm in the middle of it, or I'm coming up out of the storm. It's going to be one of those three phases, and that's an ongoing life type situation. So
Right.
if you think life is going to always just be this steady, smooth path where nothing is going wrong, no troubles, no worries, you're kind of kidding yourself. That's an unrealistic expectation. And it's a setup for you to get let down,
Right.
for you to have your an unanticipated collapse, if you will, in whatever area, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, whatever. And you don't want that. And it doesn't have to be that way. It's not about you predicting the future or anything like that. None of us can do that, but you can position yourself in such a way to where, again, where that foundation is rooted in, then it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter when the storm is going to come. It doesn't even matter how hard the storm is going to be,
That's right.
because my foundation is strong enough to handle it.
Stand it.
It,
That's
I can it I can always, like I said, I can always rebuild, and
yes.
rebuilding sometimes it's actually good to rebuild. We
Yes.
we I won't even say sometimes. Throughout the course of the life, you want to constantly be rebuilding, because rebuilding means not that you messed up, but that it's a sign of growth. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign of development. Yeah, we're rebuilding. We're rebranding. We are, we're restructuring. We're pivoting. We are developing. It's a sign of growth. Is ultimately what it comes out to. That's why we go through the storms that we go through. It's an opportunity to grow, and that the more you grow, the more God can use you.
That's
So
right. That's right.
awesome,
That's
awesome, awesome. So Shayna, you've been through a variety of different experiences over the course of your life. Learned a lot of lessons. Overcome a lot of challenges in life. If you had an opportunity to sit across from the younger Shayna and just speak to her, when you think back some of the stuff that she struggled with, had challenges with, and dealing with, in those younger years, and you had an opportunity to sit across from her and drop some words of wisdom, some advisement as to what you think are some key things that she needs to consider, applying to her life to make better decisions, to have a better mindset as she deals with the adversity and challenges of life. Or even if there's somebody that's maybe listening to our episode, and they're dealing with some stuff that they don't know how to process that adversity. Maybe they've dealt with some of the challenges specifically that you've dealt with, whether it's a broken marriage, whether it's feeling like you're by yourself and not having anybody that you can count on in difficult times. There's somebody that's going to be tuning in that's in that moment right now, and they need some insight from somebody who's been there and done that. But some advice that's solid, that's applicable, that they can use right now to make a difference in their lives. If you would, what would be those words of wisdom that you would have to share in that regard?
I can give several words of wisdom, but first I'm going to go with with the younger Shayna.
Hmm.
So if I was to give myself advice on anything right now, as I look back, I probably would have gotten married so young. But if I had not have gotten married, I probably wouldn't have had my children, which I'm very, very thankful for. But I did get married young. And I think that that probably happened because the person that my first spouse I was married to, he was 20 something compared, like he was almost 12, 13 years my senior. So I felt like I was so busy I was thinking that that was a form of love, being physically attracted instead of being spiritually and emotionally with God involved. So if I could look back at myself, at my younger self, I would say to myself, love yourself more, know your worth. Because at those moments, I know that I was worth more. Um, so that if there was anything, I would say that to myself. And as I got older and I began to get married and go through life, I feel like I had a very short temper, and I was easily to get upset, and I didn't really listen as much. And one thing I feel like I didn't do, which I'm learning to do now, I didn't set boundaries. So I've always felt like I was a giver, a giver, a giver, a giver. And that sometimes I feel like I didn't give I wasn't giving back what I gave to others. So I would most certainly set boundaries in my life. But I will say this, if I didn't have those moments in life, I probably wouldn't be the woman that I am today. So, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for those moments because it made me who I am today. So, I mean, I probably, like I said, I was just telling myself, love yourself more and know your worth. And moving forward, like I said, now I probably would have taken more to learn the people that I got involved with before I decided to marry them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't say the other night, but I've been married 5 times. This is my fifth husband. And I actually learned him. We were friends before we were anything. As I stated the other night, we dated previously and we went our separate ways and then we got remarried. So I made that mistake. But like I said, I wouldn't be who I am today. But I would tell anybody, any woman especially that's listening, love yourself, know your worth, and listen, communicate, respect yourself as well as others. And love yourself because this is one thing I also learned as well as I've gotten older, that if you want someone to love you the way you want to be loved, you need to love yourself that way because the way you love yourself, that's how they see you. So if you don't see yourself in a certain way and you're loving yourself a certain way, then that's what you're going to get back from that person. So you love yourself the way you want to be loved, and in return, that person will love you the same. So that's what I would have to say for anybody that's listening, especially women, because we so hard on ourselves nowadays. We're hard on ourselves because the world portrays everything to be so perfect, from your face to your teeth to your body. Everything, love who you are and be comfortable in the skin that you're in, and know your worth. And first and secondly, have a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Have a relationship with God, because you can't do anything without Him. You think you can, but you can't. I know I thought I could, but I can't. And once I gave him control, things began to go differently because, it's just like an airplane. You have the pilot, you have the co pilot. But we're not either. I'm the passenger. So I have to let God lead me. I have to, go with him instead of trying to run everything myself because I can't control everything. So I would just say, love yourself, respect yourself as well as others, but love yourself first.
That's awesome. So
And you
awesome.
said, I'm sorry, that was a moment of interruption.
No, it's okay.
Love yourself and you said boundaries. I think that it'll be okay because if I'd have done that probably in my life, things probably would have went a little differently for me. But as I stated, I was such a giver and wanted everyone to love me when I wasn't really loving myself because I was
Mm-hmm.
so busy trying to please other people and love them that I wasn't loving myself. And as I stated in the book, um, I used to get joked on a lot, as coming up as a child, and I found myself doing that as a child, and even sometimes as an adult. You you will make yourself, you'll make jokes on yourself
Mm-hmm.
before others do it, because I can hurt myself better than I let someone else hurt myself.
Mm.
So, I used to do that a lot, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what, I'm okay within my skin. I love myself. So, in me loving myself and setting boundaries, it it helps a lot. It has helped me a lot. So, like I said, love yourself. Ain't nothing like self love and God's love. You have both of those, you'll be okay. You'll be
Wow.
okay.
Wow. That was very powerful what you just spoke to, because I'm thinking about your book, and of course we titled our show today off of your book, Finding Me to Love Me. And that's the essence of your journey, is this whole journey that you have of life, and growing into the person that you become, has been a journey of understanding what your worth is. um
Exactly.
and I love that you highlighted that, in the sense of, like, if I want somebody to love me a certain type of way, they need to see evidence of that in how I love myself. How, again, whether it's the boundaries that I set, whether it's my comfortability in my skin. Just even you just pointing out a few moments ago about how, you had moments throughout childhood and even in early adulthood being teased about certain things about you, and you would, said to yourself, I'm gonna go ahead and make the joke first,
Right.
because I felt like if I make the joke about me, I can handle it better than you making it about me. I'll get ahead of the game. But that was a self soothing moment. That was a kind of an avoiding the issue moment, when in fact it was all about you understanding that everything that you are, everything that you're made of, that is to be loved and appreciated. Like you said, love the skin that I'm in. If you don't like it, that's not my problem.
Right.
This is who I am. This is how God made me. And you need to just accept that, or perhaps you need to move on somewhere else. Even when you talked about your prior marriage, it was all about, you spoke about earlier, about in the marriage in particular that you shared earlier, when you said I used to have to almost go, take myself down a notch to
Yeah.
make somebody else feel, in this case a husband, to make him feel good about himself, to uplift himself. And a lot of us, men and women, struggle with that sometimes. When we don't understand our value and understand our worth,
Mm-hmm.
we'll take ourselves down just to fit in with folks. And but when you are called by God, when you're in a relationship with God, he didn't build you up to fit in. You're supposed to stand out and be different. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a, per se, quote unquote, a loner, but yeah, he's designed me, created me, shaped me to be a certain kind of way, to where, yeah, you're not going to understand me. You're not going to fully embrace me, because everybody wasn't meant to understand and embrace me.
Right.
God uniquely defined me for being who I am. He's predestined who I'm supposed to be in contact with, come alongside of, pour into, whatever that is. And until I understand my worth, until I understand my value, only then can I walk in that purpose that God has for me. But I got to know
Exactly.
what it is. I got to know, yeah, yeah. Yeah, am I really this smart? Yeah, you are. Am I really this gifted in this area? Yeah, I really am. Do you really want me to tell this story, Lord, in a book, about my life? Because I had some messed up stuff that happened. Yes, I
Yes,
do.
I did.
And I let you go through what you went through intentionally, not to harm you, but because I wanted to position you to be able to be a blessing to other people who are currently struggling with some of those same things, but they don't know how to come up out of it. They don't know what it's going to take. But you're going to be my messenger to let them know what it's going to take, so that they can understand that there's nothing that they could have done that's so bad, so horrible in life, so misguided in life, that God doesn't make a pathway for them to be great, for them to be used by Him in magnificent and wonderful ways. So, yeah, I mean, that whole essence of loving you, understanding your worth and your value, it's a game changer.
It
Whether you're
is.
talking about how people treat you in, intimate male female relationships, how people treat you in the workplace, how
Mhm.
people treat you just in general in life, it's a whole lot different when you know what you bring to the table, when you know what your
Right.
value is.
Right.
That
And
there's
when you
there's things
walk
that you
with
don't.
authority,
Yes, when you walk
walk
with
with
authority,
authority.
and walking with authority doesn't mean that you're cocky and arrogant. It's like, I just know what I bring,
Right.
and this is what it is, and I'm not wavering on that. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. And again, you either accept that or you don't. that's your choice. And in some cases, it may be your loss, you know, depending upon
Exactly.
the perspective. So that's on you, you know, but I'm not going to dumb down. I'm not going to take low, you know, just to make you feel comfortable, because that not only cheats you, but it cheats other people that,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that cheats other people that God had already set up. I'm trying to get you to be a blessing to people, and you taking low. I gave you some valuable, meaningful, powerful gifts, some talents, some skill sets. I don't need you taking low. That's not what I created you for, to take low. No, no, that's not the God I am. So, that's what makes it so awesome about how you put that in perspective. You know, starting off with that love piece, but again, if you have a relationship with God, that foundational basis in itself is going to teach you what love is all about, because as we know, for those of us who know about relationship with God, we understand that God is love. He is the author of what love is.
That's right.
So if you got that relationship in play, then you already know, you know, what God is expecting people, you know, how he's expecting you to conduct yourself, and how he's expecting people to treat you,
Hmm.
and deal with you. And when they don't, when they mess with one of his, in his own way, in his own time, and in his own manner, he will deal with that. You
Yeah, it
know.
may not come at the moment, but it will happen, you know, and
Hmm.
vice versa. You know, it can also happen to you because, as we stated, you know, you have to go through to get through.
Hmm.
So don't think just because you have the favor of God, because see, we all have the favor of God. We just, some of us choose to acknowledge it and some of us don't. So we all have the favor, but at that moment, just don't think that you're not untouchable, because you are touchable, because he take his strongest soldiers and he gives them the hardest battles to fight.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
he has to use us as examples for others, like you said, that are trying to get through. I don't know how to get through, because, like, you know, I'm gonna be honest, Joseph. I've been sitting on this book for a long time, and I've gotten some backlash from some people. And but you know, I was encouraged to do it, not only from my current spouse, but from the person that helped me publish it. But yeah, I mean, you know, I just feel like me putting that story out there, putting my story out there, it has helped others and it will help others. And also it
Hmm.
helps me. It's therapy for me as
Absolutely.
well, you know,
Hmm.
because it makes me realize where I was and where I am now, you know, and sometimes I tell people sometimes you can't, what happens to you in life as a younger age does determine where you may end up in life.
Hmm.
So just because you probably had a hard upbringing in life, or you had a home that was a parent that was addicted to drugs or something like that, not my home, but I'm just saying a home, it does not determine where you go in life. It's the choices that we make that determines where we go. So, yeah, I could have had a mother or father that wasn't this type of person, but as I became an adult, I made choices in life, and those choices affect me. And that's how come, you know, I feel like a lot, and I hope I'm not getting off subject a little bit. I feel
No,
like
you're good.
a lot of us, we can try to hold our parents, our spouse, or siblings, or whatever, for where we may be in life, but it comes a point to where you've made those choices to put you in those circumstances, but you can get out of that instead of just sitting and wallowing in it. Just get out of it, but it's easier not to hold yourself accountable and to blame others. So once you have a hold yourself accountable and say, okay, I put myself here, I have to admit I did this, and then you move forward. So I probably
Hmm.
got off a little bit. I just had to say
No,
that.
you're that's spot on, because I mean, again, sometimes we make mistakes, we fall short, and we'll beat ourselves up about it. We'll get in this funk,
I,
that we can't seem to dig up out of it. I've been guilty of it. But again, that relationship with God helps you to understand that while it's okay for you to have your moment, it's not okay for you to stay stuck in the moment. You know,
exactly.
you have your moment, and then once you've had that moment, catch your breath, pull it all together,
Let's
then that's
go.
when you say, okay, Lord, where do we go from here?
Where we go from here. Yeah.
And you make sure that you're attentive, open ears, you know, open mind to hear what God has to say, and understand that He's not gonna, most times He's not gonna tell you steps that you thought He was gonna tell you. It's
Right.
gonna be the complete opposite of what you would have ever imagined He asked of you
Mhm.
to say or do. But again, that's where that trust, that's where that obedience comes into play, where I just got to roll with it, even if I don't fully understand it, even if it makes no sense to me, because of the source of where it's coming from, and how I know that He values me, that He wants nothing but the best for me. He's not going to lead me down a path
Right.
of destruction. Then I got to roll with it. Like I said, even if it just sounds like the most unusual, unorthodox, off the rails type of situation, Okay, Lord, if that's what you want me to do, then that's what I'm gonna do. And I promise you, anytime that I have followed through completely as God has instructed me to do, without wavering, without trying to modify His plan to make it convenient for me, when I've not done that, everything has worked out smoothly and exceeded what whatever my expectations were as to how it was going to play out. But when I try to go solo, do my own thing, keep God out of the mix. I'm not consulting him. I'm not listening to him. I'm just rolling, just trying to, like I said, be my own savior, fix my own stuff on my own strength. Then that's when I'm prolonging myself in situations that I didn't have to,
Right?
or making it much harder than what it needed to be,
Yes.
those
Yeah.
type of things. So,
Or as my late grandfather would say, he was a pastor, and he gave a sermon one time how you want to take the shortcuts and don't want to take the long route.
mm,
So sometimes we want to take the shortcuts in life to get to that place really really fast in life, when you actually should take the long route, because all to me, I feel like, as he was saying, it's going to strengthen you for when you
mm-hmm,
do get to that reward. So sometimes it's just best to take the long route, not the shortcuts in life.
totally agree. Totally agree. Well, Shayna, this has been an awesome conversation once again. And of course, it's been wonderful hearing it exclusively about you and your journey and just again, another layer of who you are and what your growth has been in your relationship with God and how He's been a blessing and moved in your life accordingly, in spite of the various storms and challenges that you faced along the way. But as you know, what's customary here on Blessings in the Streets podcast, we're not going to let you go without taking an opportunity to show you some love, to celebrate you, to acknowledge you, to lift you up. So if you have anything that you'd like to share personally or professionally that's going on or coming up down the pipe that you can share with us, that we can, again, celebrate and love on you on, please do so at this time.
Well, I would like, as we were talking about the book, is titled, your show is titled today, Finding Me to Love Me. So this is an actual copy. I did get one in the mail today, waiting for the others. And this is the book, and that is me on the back. And I won't go, that's how come I didn't really want to give too much when I was talking, because if I
Mhm.
begin to talk a lot, then you're going to know about the book. But some of the things I discussed are in the book. But yes, it is on Amazon, and you can go order it on Amazon. And the title of it is Finding Me to Love Me, Shana Westbrook-Faulkner. And I think it's a really good read. This is my very, very first book, and I'm looking forward to many more. But it's a book that you probably won't want your child to read. So I would say an adult should probably read it, or older teen. But it speaks of, the things I've encountered in life and that I endured, and where I am, where I was at that moment. Because as I stated, I've sat on this book for 12 years. So that was in 2012. So I'm working on one from 2013 to my current moment in life now. So I don't know how soon it will be out, because I just not started working on it. But I'm going to have a follow up with this one. But yes, so this is me. So I'm just excited. I'm very thankful that you gave me the opportunity to come on here and talk about my life, the book, and other ways that I could help anyone that's out there going through anything, male, female, it doesn't matter.
Well, it's certainly been a pleasure having you, and again sharing and again once again, been blessed from what you've had to share, and of course, I know my listeners have been blessed as well. And to my listeners, if you've enjoyed our broadcast this evening, the content that we've shared, the vulnerability, the transparency that's been presented before you, and the sharing of our stories, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We want to encourage, we want to inspire, we want to uplift using real life stuff that everyday folk are dealing with. And we know that you're dealing with it too, being raw, being transparent with you, letting you know that, hey, you're not alone in this battle. You're not alone in this fight. It's not just you. We all go through storms. It's not a matter of if, but when. But ultimately, if you want to be a conqueror of the storms in life, if you want to be that one who sees, victory after victory after victory, you have to go back to that foundational base. And that foundational base is rooted in your relationship with God. And if you don't currently have a relationship with God, I'm here to tell you, and Janice would attest to this as well. It'll be the greatest decision that you'll ever make,
Yes, it will.
because He loves you unconditionally like no other. His wisdom is unlimited, so He's never going to give you a wrong answer or a wrong piece of advice. He's again the ultimate problem solver, the ultimate way maker, and He wants nothing but the best for you. And those storms that we go through, stop looking at them as being, life ending, no way out type of events, but instead put on a different mindset and say, okay, I'm going through this because first and foremost, God allowed it to come my way. And if he allowed it to come my way and he loves me the way that he does, then there must be something of value that I'm supposed to get out of this. So I just need to withstand. I need to hold firm, ride that wave out, and know that when I come up out of that storm, as Shanna mentioned earlier, there's going to be some sunshine awaiting you.
That's
There's going to
right.
be some blessings awaiting you.
Right.
And if that's what you are about, and if that's what you want to experience more and more of over the course of your life, then this is the way to make it happen. Is begins with that relationship with God, and I promise you, He'll never disappoint you. He'll never fall short. His promises are rock solid to you. You don't have to, have any doubts about that. So with that said, remember here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. And Shanna has something else she wants to say before we go. So I'm going to let her jump in real quick before we
So
check out on it.
I was going to give my email for anybody that
Sure,
wants.
go ahead.
So my email is SHAYNNA93@gmail.com. If you have any questions or would like to reach out to me pertaining to the book or anything, feel free to email me, and I will follow up with the email as well. And I thank
Awesome.
you again for having me on your show. And go get this book, y'all.
All right, all right. Well, she's made herself available to you, not only to tell you where to get the book, but she's saying, hey, you can reach out to her and chop it up with her about whatever it is that you like to talk with her about. She's making herself available and open. She's allowing God to use her accordingly. So we can't we can't ask for anything more for her being so gracious and doing so, whether it's on this platform or just again independently, just allowing herself to be made available to be contacted if you feel like you want to reach out to her, whether it's to support, whether it's to seek encouragement or what have you. She's making herself available accordingly. So again, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, remember, this is the place where your story is your glory, your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Till next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Withstand those storms. Don't let them be a negative point in your life, but use them as an opportunity to grow, to develop, because that's what they're intended for anyway. Let God use you accordingly. Let him make you be the best version of yourself so that not only you can receive blessings, but that more importantly, that you can be a blessing to other people, because that's what we were created for to begin with, was to be of service, was to advance his kingdom. So let him have his way with you. And I promise it'll be the best decision you'll ever make. And the blessings will be so bountiful, so in abundance, you will lose count of it all. So with that said, you take care of yourselves. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time.